Welcome back to everyone. I wonder if anyone else had the same experience as me. As I sat with my cup of coffee, I suddenly was in tears. I think they were tears of emotion for everything that was shared in the thematic group. Tears sharing the sadness, tears sharing the truth of what you were all saying from your experience. Extraordinary truths, but truths. So it moved me so deeply to hear the truth spoken across the whole spectrum of emotion that it led me to be in tears. And perhaps other people might perhaps have shared something similar to that. And it feels just right now that I'm going to introduce Professor Mirjana Mavrak to come to give us her presentation. Good morning, Mirjana. Welcome to our symposium. You are very, very warmly welcomed here. I saw that you have been present at the whole of the thematic group, and so you have shared in what has just happened. And you are going to talk to us about humour as life support in difficult circumstances, which feels so incredibly resonant with what we've just been talking about. So I'll introduce you and then invite you to give us your presentation. So Professor Mavrak is a retired professor of pedagogy and psychology from the University of Sarajevo. And a lot of her work draws from the war in Bosnia and Herzegovina. And she's an award-winning author, writing from some of her experience, both her own experience and the work group she worked with during that war. So she's a perfect person to speak to us today. Mirjana, the floor is yours. We look forward to what you have to say to us.
Thank you very much, Patricia. I hope that everybody can hear me. And I have to share with you this feeling over my cup of coffee. And during the break, I first had to pull myself together, I would say.
Yes.
Because the whole morning session that I really wish to follow, and so I did, brought me 33 years ago to some years, to my youth years, I would say, or the places and people that I met there in 1992 and before that. I was actually at that time 27 years old, assistant at the university, without child, but married. And all these stories and all these reflections from our colleagues from Ukraine actually brought me to exactly the same place where they were. So we spoke about pityness, we spoke about empathy, we spoke about, I don't know, feelings that we can share and what touched us. I would say that I am sitting on some sort of identification. So my tears and my, I don't know, my feelings, I think that it belongs to all these people today, but not only today. Since 1991, 1992, when the war in Balkan Peninsula started, and when I became the part of that war, I can freely say that there is no war at this world that is not mine. That means that I feel strongly connected with all people who suffer at the moment. And very often it has nothing to do with policy, flags, nationality, or something like that. I feel it like a deep, deep connection with sorrow and with the life energy. when our mutual colleague, Irena Bezic, who is, by the way, and was my most important, most valuable support during the wartime in Bosnia and Herzegovina, when she offered me this role, I really felt truly and deeply privileged that I can be the part of this process, that I can meet all of you, and that I can share not my knowledge because I am professor or 60 years old woman, but my experience speaking about our topic, which comes from my personal life. And that's why I would like to say that I do not want to share the truth with this group. Everything what I am going to say today is just one particular, how can I say, my own concept of these phenomenon that we mentioned today, like anger and humor and connection and love. So humor as life support in difficult circumstances is something that you have already touched through your discussions during this morning. And first of all, I would like to say that whenever we speak about some terms or concepts, we have to agree upon the definitions. And definitions in our lives, they give structure. In any war and any unstructured situation which is threatening to us, we are lacking the definition. And that's why even in our work with people, it is very important that we have the possibility to make clear for ourselves what we are talking about. So start premises would be that when we are talking about mental health, support, anger, sorrow, trauma, crisis, humor, love, these same terms could have different meanings for each person and also for each culture. And one of my worries, I would say, in preparation of this presentation was that probably some sort of humor from Bosnia and Herzegovina that I would like to share with you will not be understood in the right way. So, because humor is really very, very sophisticated topic in this context, the context of war, struggle for life, loss, sorrow, and everything else, tragedy actually, which happens in each war that we know. Definition can help us also in struggle for better understanding, and we would not leave that, I would say, definition. But if we stay with diagnosis, only with this, what we see in human behavior, if we stay only with something what is characterization, then sometimes we will lose the point. Lazarus, for instance, gave us his multimodal therapy, and he put the focus on therapy defined by previous observation of client's behavior. And we all know that. We can, I mean, he called it basic ID. And this basic ID is actually abbreviation of the first letter of words: behavior, affects, sensation, imagery, cognition, interpersonal relationships, and drugs. And we should, as a therapist or somebody who is facing another person, we should go through these questions and ask people about these things so that we could find out or diagnose which kind of help do they need, which kind of strength do they have, etc., etc. But if we stay within that identity, then it could be, how can I say, sometimes it's not enough. Basic ID speaks about personality. Learning about diagnose is necessary. But if we think about transformative learning and change in that transformative learning, then it's not enough. Transformative learning provides change And that change could be provoked or supported by psychotherapy or counseling or teaching process, so work with people in general. I would say that before 1994, we in Bosnia and Herzegovina, we were educated that resilience is a sort of defense, and that defense or defense mechanisms should be fight if we want to help people, because then they are stuck somewhere, you know, and we have to help them not to be stuck in these mechanisms of defense. But in 1994, thanks to an excellent education organized at that time in Israel by Carmel Institute, thanks to Professor Reuven Gal, Center for Mental Health Prevention from Kiryat Shmona, and that was Professor Dr. Muli Lahad, and Haifa University, Professor Dr. Afra Ayalon came from that institution, and with support of United Kingdom Jewish Aid, or UKJAID, and UNICEF, we professionals from Bosnia and Herzegovina and Croatia, and later also professor from Serbia, so countries with mutual and complicated history of relationship, we came to new insights concerning counseling and psychotherapy, which was focused on this proactive life in difficult circumstances. At that time, we actually understood that we have to reach for coping process as basic necessity for change, and that we should make a step forward from identity validating to something what would be the basic philosophy of coping, now given to us or shared with us as basic PH, which was actually a sort of new theory, also a multidimensional theory given us by Professor Muli Lahad, who actually, instead of basic identity, started to teach about basic philosophy of helping people cope in difficult situations. He said, our identity is also something what we live through our actions. So if we think much more about verbs in our everyday life and not about attributes, then probably we will be more active. And then he also tried to explain to us that each of these psychologists that gave us or supported us with these brilliant theories of work with people, like Maslow, like Freud and Rogers, like Erickson or Adler or Jung or Lazarus and Ellis or Pavlov, Watson, they all belong to different schools, which maybe theoretically was fighting for certain concepts in work with people. But integration of all these things gives us actually much more clear picture about ourselves and also a picture on people that we are working with. In the, let us say, this line, you can see the main focal points that are connected with a certain way of coping. Belief is one way of coping. We heard this morning that praying, for instance, can be of a great help. That belongs to this channel, belief. Or, for instance, affection, listening, sharing emotions, ventilation, having cats and dogs as warm animals instead of our family members would belong to this affection channel. Social channel gives us the opportunity to cope with our social roles, social structure, social skills that we have. For instance, this symposium also belongs to this channel. Imagination, I think that maybe Vladimir, or that was the name of the man, he spoke about theater. So creativity, play, psychodrama, as if situations, etc. Everything belongs to this imagination channel of our functioning, while all these structural things, writing will, analyzing situation and helping myself to understand, etc., self-management, inner monologue, etc., that all belongs to cognition channel of coping. And then my cup of coffee, my physical activities, my exercises, the fact that I'm taking some sort of drugs maybe, or cigarette, could be also helpful in my way of coping with trouble situation. And of course, in this last line, you can see the actions that we do, or something that we can recognize as the main way of our behavior in this line. So self-evaluation, emotions, social roles, intuition, humor, reality, body practices, that is something what we can do to fight fatigue, to fight fear, to see how to survive in difficult circumstances. When Muli Lahat spoke about that in 1994, I had a feeling that suddenly I can see better. And I use this table just to point at this humor, although our discussion this morning gives us the opportunity to see that each of us have our main way of coping. We can recognize that through these expressions. I put it down and I could hardly stop myself from reflections, because I recognize myself in these things that my colleagues spoke to me. And I actually would say we all can recognize ourselves here because we are humans. I thought in 1994 that I can survive in Sarajevo because I'm Bosnian, because I am from Bosnia and Herzegovina, because we are special people in that survival. And then I understood that actually this strength for survival is practically something what is natively, generally human. And I started to respect myself much more as a human being. And I started to respect all people more, not only these who are heroes, but also these who probably does not look like heroes, but have their own heroism in the way they provide for themselves a sort of survival and life. My topic was connected to humor, and that's why it's like a small oxymoron, I would say. It's plus and minus in the same phenomenon. Humor is like the god of Janus. The god Janus has two faces, the sad one, young, old one, and bright one, young one. So young person and old person, they are all together on the same neck with the same body, looking different directions. And I think for that reason, probably here in their brains, they can have something more than if they look only in one direction. So these things that you can right now see on this slide, they came from dictionaries. So yes, the most comprehensive understanding of humor is that it is the quality of being amusing or comical. But also in how can I say, ancient cultures, it was treated as fluid, responsible for character and general health. Medieval cultures, for instance, they often treated humor as something what is not desirable. And historically, with Renaissance and growth of rationalism, humor again gets its desirable place in literature and science. Very often, however, even today, just as at the time of Renaissance, humor is connected with mockery. It has its bright and its dark sides, but I would like to stay with humor as a coping mechanism which supports survival and has its cognitive elements which are combined with creativity. I asked myself, writing this presentation for all of us, whether humor is life support or life itself. I would like to say that humor is a child of joy. Very often, we forgot, as we grown up, we forgot about jokes, and we forgot about children's joy, which we all have, but we actually suppressed it somewhere. Joke is a short story which provides pleasure, and that pure pleasure is something what is connected with children's play. First of all, it refers to something what is familiar, supporting human need for being safe. When we are speaking about safety in humor, it's not some sort of a phenomenon of mechanical nature. You can feel safe if you, for instance, drink your coffee every morning at the same hour. That is also safety. But a person is not safe with the joke because it's mechanical routine or habit without threatening, but because it has also an element of well-known things which are rearranged in a new product, and for that reason there is also a surprise. So that is safe and surprise, and then the result that you have is actually this kind of pleasure in joke. I actually tried to put that in scheme on this picture, but you know, this sign of practically multiplication is very important. If you put here plus instead of this sign of multiplication, then you could have the situation like, if you have safety plus surprise, you have a joke. But if you have safety and you do not have surprise, you have still a joke. That's not true. If you have only one of these things, then the situation here is different. So for that reason, if surprise is zero, then we cannot speak about joke. And if safety is zero, then also we cannot speak about joke. It will be zero here, and it will turn to something else. Surprise could be turned, for instance, in some sort of suffer, fear, or something like that. So safety becomes from well-known details, names, situations, something what belongs to me, to I, and surprise is actually connected with playing with words and ideas, even if it has a sort of cruel connotation. This joke, which was combination of these two things, this humor and joy, actually answers deep human needs. And we can learn about that needs from, I don't know, Maslow, or for instance, from William Glasser, or any other psychologist that speaks about human needs. It supports physical health. It supports our feeling of competency when we say jokes. It brings amusement and fun. It also connects us with other people, and it brings the freedom of choice, because we do not have to laugh. We do not have to tell jokes. That is the question of choice. There are several examples from my country of jokes that we tell during the war, and some of them are dark. For instance, these two last one. But the first one came as one of the first in 90s before the war started, but we had a lot of discussions about territory which belongs to a certain ethnicity, etc. And Sarajevo was always considered as multicultural, but one morning we could see the title on the wall of the main post office. It says, "This is Serbia." Serbia was the country at Balkan Peninsula, which actually was in war also with Bosnia. But below, we also could see the answer. No, dummy, this is the post office. during the war, 1992 and 1995, UNICEF office in Sarajevo functioned with many challenges, not only because of the situation in Bosnia and Herzegovina, but also because a lot of bureaucracy that we were faced with. And then we would say to each other at that time, oh, hello, what are you doing? And when your colleague asks you, so you can say, I'm UNICEFing around. You know, so UNICEFing is not an official word. That is something what you combine from something what you know with something what is actual in that present situation. Shelling was everyday ritual. So when somebody asks you, what's up? You can frankly give an answer, everything is up, you know. Or for instance, we had some stray dogs at the street, you know, and it was very sad situation at the beginning of the war because many dogs were left behind the families who actually moved and left the city. But then there was, you know, somewhere in 1993, when we were really starving, there was a question, do you know why there is no stray dogs at Sarajevo streets? Citizens had them, you know, or sniper shot the man at the street, cutting his ear, you know, and he started to look for his ear while the shooting was still on. And a friend shouted, are you crazy looking for useless ear in this mess? And he said, it's not the ear that I'm looking for, it's my cigarette. Because, you know, we put cigarettes here and we were cut off that supplies as well. Each of these jokes has its context, and some of them lost their sharpness and joy because the time has changed. They do not belong to reality anymore. Something that I also want to stress here is that whenever humor stays in something what we call the theory of objects, it could be very harmful. So history of humor marks it as mocking, making jokes of human weakness. But theory of object is dangerous also for some other phenomenon that we mentioned this morning. For example, the phenomenon of death, the phenomenon of loss, etc., of some sort of disability, etc. Hunter Patch Adams, I don't know whether you are familiar with that man, because there is a movie, Patch Adams, which I would strongly recommend that everybody should see. That was the man who was a medical doctor and clown from 70s to nowadays. And he says, when did we decide to take death as a tragedy and to choose to feel fear of something so natural? We can instead mock to things that are inevitable and frightening. The big difference between his context and our context in Sarajevo and your context today in your country is actually that the death is not natural. Human being caused it. And there we could come to anger, which has, how can I say, the theory of objects is worth in that circumstance. And when one decides to use humor as joke about something that happens to him, so that means about self. I think that Roxana actually shared the joke of her husband and his name, grandpa, grandfather, you know, granddad. So when I and me becomes I am, it is self. And sometimes I can make a step forward from this theory of objects to meta theory. I can say jokes about my weaknesses without humiliation, which can come from others telling a joke about me. So my joke is joke on subject, on I, not just on object. My weakness is now naked, but not frightening. I'm hero because I can joke with my weaknesses. It became my strength, that joke. And I'm also making step forward to you. Now we can laugh together to my creative approach to my weaknesses and not to weaknesses itself. I'm also challenging you in that contact. Can you tell the same joke about your weaknesses? And that we can share that together. I'm telling this because there are a lot of jokes on my, how can I say, my tribe. And that is that we are stupid and that we are very naive as Bosnians, you know. And I would say, if I can fight that mark with my readiness to speak jokes about myself, then in meta theory, I am the one who decide not to stay as an object of joke, but the subject of making jokes for fun and laugh and joy, etc. So this would be actually everything what I already said, but in scheme. So I will not stay more on this. You can go back on your own after this symposium and look a bit more on this scheme. But something that I would like to stress is this contact. So it's very important that telling jokes is something what will be attractive for other people, and that is something what I'm giving to you. So a few more jokes. Example one about elderlies. So I already told you that I'm in my 60s, and I will tell you this joke for that reason. Secondary school alumni decided to celebrate different anniversaries in the Hotel Europe, which is in the central part of the Sarajevo and one of the oldest hotels. So there are 20th, 30th, 40th, and 50th anniversary of that the same group of people. So for 20th anniversary, the answer on question why Hotel Europe was, it is a nice place and there are always good-looking young people floating by the hotel, so maybe we can find something for ourselves, you know. And then for 30th anniversary, well, you know, Hotel Europe is a nice place with tradition, space for dancing, good food, good drinks, we will have a good time, so let's go to Hotel Europe. For 40th anniversary, we would say, well, Hotel Europe is in the center of the town. It's very convenient for an emergency car in case somebody needs medical help. And when we are in 50th anniversary and we say that we will go to Hotel Europe and somebody asks why, we would say, how do you mean why Hotel Europe? Because we have never been there. So now in my 60s, I met my fellows from secondary school, and this became an official joke of my group until one of our friends said a new joke. She said, let's go to any place, but just without crouching, because then we cannot stand up, you know, if you crouch, because you need to have a strong body for that. So that is example one. Example two is about professions. Medical doctor, lawyer, and economist discuss which profession is the oldest one and therefore deserves the biggest credit. And then the doctor says, of course, from the beginning of the world, there were diseases and health. So medicine always have made a difference, helping people to leave the space of suffer and to be healthy again. So doctors are the first and the most important among all professions. And then lawyer says, yes, but let me add that doctors could not differ illness from health without standards and rules. Law is above all, otherwise there would be a chaos. And then economists look at them, pointing on himself, and he said, correct, my distinguished colleagues, but who is responsible for chaos? You know, so for a sort of how can I say, after symposium exercise on your own at your places, ask yourself these questions. So how do you feel about these jokes? How is the feeling connected with your identity? When somebody speaks about people from Bosnia and I'm Bosnian, or people who are elderly and I'm elderly, how do I feel? What if I'm not a person 6+ age, And how do I consider the first joke? What if the second joke has been told by economists? And what if another profession tells it? And now recall a number of chauvinistic jokes full of prejudice that we all use in our everyday life about male-female behavior, about blonde ladies, about intelligence, about laziness or stinginess of whole nations. And we used to tell that. What kind of pleasure is acceptable and in which circumstances? So we can think about a side field and the side effects of humor and joking. What I have to ask now is that actually I'm entering the the end of my presentation. Can I continue? Or you would like me?
For a few minutes, Mirjana, till 5:02. Yeah.
Okay, because I promised Martin that I will take care for time.
Okay.
And there is a lot of things that I want to share, but something what is very important for me to say to all of you is that children did not forget about joy. And for instance, some sentences which could be senseless for you, like for instance, this sentence, how much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? That is something what children very much like. And they would say just, they start to laugh and they would say, again, again. And what happens with adults? Adults would try to understand it. They would say, what is it? What? Wood? Chuck? Chuck? Who? Who chucks what? What is woodchuck? So whenever we put rationalization, ratio, criticism, etc., we lost the joy. And when we lost that joy, we lost the point of humor. We lost something what can help us survive. Can you understand what we are doing to ourselves? Here is an example about adolescents who would give in the school, they would give senseless answers, and they would make teachers uncomfortable and the class laughing, and they will send them to you as psychotherapists. Instead of understanding the pleasure of fun, school and community would rather validate this as problem behavior, while that is just call for more joy in school. So I would never support this. Humor helps the adolescent to survive, while social field recall discipline, instead using more humor in teaching. Sweet life, that is life without war. But I have to tell you that we in sweet life, we do not need that much humor and joke. Sweet life is enough for itself. If we know, however, that 100 years ago, a scientist, anthropologist, Novikov, researched the balance between war and peace in the world, he concluded that we have 13 times more war than peace in history of humankind. Can you imagine that? So it's not the question of 21st century or 20th century. Through the centuries, we were much more warriors than peacemakers. So my question would be, what shall we do with that? How to cool down something what is human suffer? Principle of health goes from joke. Joke starts as game. The joke path leads to freedom, and this freedom gives relief from criticism and evaluation that school taught us about, and boosters senseless joy. This senseless joy, this joy as a product of humor and joke, is active fight against ratio, critics, and abuse. Every human being have humor and the possibility to laugh, but all people are not humorous. We even have this, how can I say, word in Bosnian, Croatian, and Serbian language. We would say duhovitos. Duh means the sense of humor, for humor. So person exposed to trauma and humiliation is not victim. When she choose or he choose humor instead of broken life and neurosis, that is the question of choice. not the question of weakness or something else. Another thing is that humor has to be shared to get its full function. That means that when I'm making a joke, I try to live with you, and additionally, I share with you pleasure for which you do not have to work hard. Reality is hard enough and needs to be relaxed, what we actually learned this morning. And let me conclude. Psychotherapy has its chances also with humor and jokes, not only with cards which will visualize something, some pictures, not only with music, also with humor. Humor could be the part of our associative cards, for instance. Humor cannot be worn out in sharing. People in Bosnia and Herzegovina, as well as people in Ukraine today, used candles during the war as treasure. The one who was lighting the candle too long is rewarded every day with turning on electric lamp. Humor, however, can be a light even when you live with handles. And then, therefore, I would like to ask all of you, no matter where are you, if it is a war in Ukraine or it's war of everyday life, I would like you not to forget that smile costs less than electric energy and gives much more light. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Mirjana. I think that's wonderful. And I'd just like to repeat something you said towards the end. If we lose humor, we lose joy, and we lose the possibility to survive. It's a powerful thing to say, and it also reflects what so many people said in the thematic group this morning, I think. So thank you for your deep experience and wisdom, and for everything that you've shared with us, which is so rich about humour and its light, and it's giving us the possibility to survive. Thank you so much. And look at all the emojis that are flowing over you.
Yes, I really feel warm here.
Yes, exactly. And also, did you notice that when you were sharing the jokes from your country, in fact, people were laughing. There were laughing emojis going up. So it's a common shared humour. Yeah, you were worried that people might not understand the jokes, but everyone understood the jokes. Yes. Thank you so much, Mirjana. Thank you very much. We look for, just to explain to everyone, we won't take any questions to Mirjana now, but Mirjana will be part of the round table this afternoon. So if you have questions or comments you wish to share with her, please bring these to the round table this afternoon. Thank you, Mirjana. Okay.